institutions that ought to underpin democracy. Those institutions would include the judiciary, for instance. They would include the Independent Electoral Commission. So to forget about the noise that you hear all the time in South Africa, we have an election in this place every 2.5 years. Forget about the fact that in Parliament from time to time, some people wearing red overalls are throwing fists. But there's an election in this country every 2.5 years, and anyone who feels that they have a political viewpoint can put together their own party. And there's even a Dacha party, by the way, the marijuana party in South Africa. And then you can go and convince people who vote that they should actually come and vote. It's a very, very critical element. Our judiciary is very independent. Now, of course, people will tell you, yeah, but you know, there's corruption, Zuma did this and Zuma did not do that. I think Zuma poses for us something that I would refer to as not an incongruent juxtaposition between the idea of mischief and on the other side, constitutional development and the idea of the originality in what the Constitution is supposed to hold. So maybe 50 years from now, because of Zuma's mischief, unintended consequences was that he actually tested the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. If it was not because of his mischief, how would we have known, by the way, that you can never appoint as National Director of Public Prosecutions in South Africa someone who was not fit and proper? Well, guess what? Zuma tried. The matter went to the courts, went to the Constitutional Court, and the Constitutional Court struck it down. Another example, how would we have known, because one of those Chapter 9 institutions is the Office of the Public Protector, how would we have known that a black woman taking office would go after the president and say, you need to pay back the money? It's the money that was used in upgrading security in your home was actually not used properly. And the president says, well, I don't have to listen to that because it's just a guide. Or those were suggestions and recommendations. And that matter went to the Constitutional Court, and the Constitutional Court says the president shall pay all the non-security related upgrades that were incurred on his private property. Why? Because our Constitution is a living document. And in this country, it doesn't matter who you are going up against. The judges are not related to the president, and they are going to hear your case, notwithstanding who the person on the other side happens to be. That's important, because that's what we're pitching in South Africa, notwithstanding the rowdiness